when I was like a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, my instructor was a really good wrestler, a good jiu-jitsu guy who had good wrestling. And one day we were training, and I had lost a competition. I think I lost, to be truthful, I think I lost like a Naga or something. And I was complaining, kind of venting, like, man, I can't get this going, I can't get that going. And he was like, he just straight looked at me in the eyes and went, if you don't know how to wrestle, you're never gonna win. And I'm like, he goes, you need to learn how to wrestle. He goes, all you do is play guard. And I was totally a guard player.
Yeah.
Did not like being on top, like being on bottom, looking to submit people. He's like, if you don't know how to learn how to wrestle, you're not gonna win anything. And I'm like, at first I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And then I was like, I mean, it's true, I don't know how to wrestle. Maybe I'm gonna start learning how to wrestle, you know?
Yeah. I would like to open up with what's probably one of the coolest guests that I've had so far. So I'm glad you were able to hop on.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you very much, brother. So I know how I've been following you and seeing just, it's crazy to see everything you put into your schedule and everything like that. So I know you did a seminar last night down in the city. You probably don't know how long you're going to be out here. I've seen you were doing seminars in Ohio, it looked like, a couple days prior to this.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. So is there seasons of travel and then seasons of like, hey, we're going to be home and we're going to be focused?
Yeah, there is. It's usually seasons that don't conflict with competitions and things of that manner, you know?
Yeah.
So this is beginning of the year, probably close to the first 4 or 5 months of the year is generally slower for competitions. You know, if you look at all the big ones like, you know, ADCC Trials, ADCC Worlds, you know, Nogi Worlds, Pans, they're all towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
So everything starts after June.
Yeah.
So, you know, the first, you know, quarter of the year, trying to get in, you know, seminars and trips and family stuff. And I like doing these trips and bringing my whole family with me because even though it's work, it becomes fun, you know. You get to go places with them and get to see cool, you know, experiences and experience other people's gyms and atmospheres.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool.
So I started, as soon as we kind of got the yes from you, I started doing a significant amount of research, and I was playing around with myself. I've only been I've only been practicing no-gi jiu-jitsu. I do a little bit of gi for, I'd say, about 2 years, roughly. My boss got me into it, well, my partner now, when I first started selling life insurance. He had mats in his office and first started off showing me straight ankle locks, and I took it and showed all my buddies, and we didn't know what we were doing with them, and I didn't tap in one, so I tore my meniscus my first year. So this was probably 3 or 4 years ago, and so I took a year off, tried stem cells, tried different things like that. It didn't work, so I ended up taking the meniscus out. But the last year I trained real hard under Omar, and then I trained with another guy, gi-wise, Alex Seaver, and lot of fun stuff. But I started watching the Python trap and muffler submission and playing around with it. I actually got a guy, one of my buddies who's 230, 240, so he's got some weight on me, and I got him kind of with like that muffler.
That's
and he
cool.
tapped to it. So that was really cool to put that into play. But now I've seen you use that because I was watching some of your matches from ADCC and just using that. Some of the higher level guys that you're competing with, they may not tap to that, but it's definitely, I think I was watching one of your instructionals or just on YouTube, you're like, it'll just get them to go frantic.
Yeah, it just sets a panic, you know. It's kind of like being waterboarded, right?
Yeah.
You're not gonna not breathe.
Yeah.
But you start to understand that, like, oh, I'm breathing, but I'm drowning a little bit here in my, you know, in this person's hand.
Yes.
So it's definitely a special move. I started using it because I had a student that was really hard to tap from the back, and I would try to rear naked choke him, and he had just iron neck, and he would just hide his neck and chin down. So one day, I was just rolling with him, and I, you know, covered his mouth, and I was like, oh, this guy's panicking, you know, like,
yeah.
I'm like, oh, I could use this. And then from there, I started using it, and then because I covered his mouth and he would use his hands to kind of come up and remove my hands, I was like, all right, now I just got to isolate one of his hands,
yes.
and then isolate another one with my hand,
yep.
and then eventually cover his mouth with the free hand, and you know, and you can sense that he's going to panic. You know, the person's going to panic.
Yeah.
Sometimes they pretend that they're fine. They
yeah.
just sit still, you know, and then you sit still, and you know, and anybody's brain says, all right, I'm not breathing.
Yeah.
I am breathing, but it's very little.
Yes.
Right. And there's somebody on my back. I got to move. And
yes.
then they start to move. and then the brain starts to set the panic in,
Yes.
So it it started working out, and the first couple times I did it in competition against a really high level guy, and the internet just freaking blew up on it. They hated it.
Yeah.
And then after a while, all the higher level athletes were like, "Oh, this works. Like
Yes.
I should be doing this."
Yeah.
And then everybody started doing it, and now it's like kind of a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was watching, Donaher was pointing out some things in regard to your style, and he was saying you're very good at raising the emotions in your opponents, but yourself staying calm. So when somebody gets really excited, emotional, angry, you know what I mean? Maybe, you know what I mean? They're just they're not happy with your style or just the style of jiu-jitsu. How are you staying so calm?
Like he stated it best, it's part of my strategy to kind of just, get the person out of their comfort zone, get them uncomfortable, get them upset, get them, I'm not doing it to be rude or disrespectful to anybody, but I'm trying to get them to.
It's a strategy.
Get them to start making mistakes, come out of their normal rhythm, which, emotions should not play a role in when you're fighting. Emotions don't exist when you're fighting, If you're too excited, you're gonna make a mistake. If you're angry, you're gonna make a mistake. If you're, having too much fun, you're gonna make a mistake.
Yeah.
You should be even keel the whole time. And when I start to kind of pick at people and get them to kind of start getting inside their little shell, inside their head, usually they try to do something to piss me off, and I'm usually kind of smiling like, there's nothing you could do to bother me, you know what I mean? Because I know what I'm doing. And usually when somebody does that to me, it tells me that they're I'm caught on to what I'm doing is working.
Yes.
Because they're reacting to me now. They're not reacting to what they are doing. They're reacting to trying to make me feel some type of way that's going to bother me, and that's not how it works. I'm the one that's doing it first. So if I know I'm started it, that means it's working. That means all I got to do is just keep at it, and eventually they'll overcommit something and they'll make a mistake, and then I can take advantage of it,
Yeah, absolutely.
At the highest level, you got to take any edge you can get, and I feel like I've had that edge over a lot of these guys, and most of the guys, in every weight class I've fought.
Yeah.
It's like it's such a little simple thing,
Yeah, absolutely. You got best match of ADCC 2022, so it was you versus Isaac Mitchell.
Yep.
Right. So what was that? So I watched the whole match. It was a crazy match, and I've been the blast double. It's a blast double you do where you just push up and
go.
And that's just a typical. The wrestlers, they push up on the elbows and then shoot in for the blast double. So did you wrestle prior to jiu-jitsu?
No, I didn't. When I was like a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, my instructor was a really good wrestler, a good jiu-jitsu guy who had good wrestling. And one day we were training, and I had lost a competition. I think I lost, to be truthful, I think I lost like a naga or something. And I was complaining, kind of venting, like, man, I can't get this going, I can't get that going. And he was like, he just straight looked at me in the eyes and went, if you don't know how to wrestle, you're never going to win. And I'm like, he goes, you need to learn how to wrestle. He goes, all you do is play guard. And I was totally a guard player.
Yeah.
Did not like being on top, like being on bottom, looking to submit people. He's like, if you don't know how to learn how to wrestle, you're not going to win anything. And I'm like, at first I was like, it doesn't make any sense. And then I was like, I mean, it's true, I don't know how to wrestle. Maybe I'm going to start learning how to wrestle,
Yeah.
And I started applying, wrestling every single day to my training. Like I would just show up and I would grab people who were better wrestlers and I would stand in front of them and then they would just throw me around. And after a while, I was kind of figuring out my way of, defending myself and, using it to counter. And now one of the best wrestlers in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. That blast double is nasty. Yeah. And the head placement, not getting guillotined, that's another issue. It's like I've just been trying to hit foot sweeps instead of just trying to go. I wrestled a year in high school, so it's like I have a wrestling foundation. But I'll shoot in like on Omar's immediate, either short choke, guillotine, or high elbow, and I'm like, he's good too with like the head placement, like straight in my chest, and I can't get a choke in there. So it's like it's crazy, especially at the high level where I know you guys you're gonna find those chokes and you not get choked out. So I think that's something I kind of take notes on. Crazy record, 71-26 according to some of the things I was looking at. So obviously you've probably had way more competitive matches. It says ADCC silver and bronze medalists making the podium 2019 and 17, respectively.
And 22.
And 22, obviously. So wrestling crazy. Black belt. So I wanted to get into this. Black belt under Pablo Popovich.
Yep.
And so Pablo, he was Brazilian, correct?
Yep.
Okay, and did he nickname you? I got this, and correct me if I'm wrong. Nickname, is it Ceara?
Yeah, that was a nickname. Actually, Pablo was a couple years older than me, and
Okay.
when I started jiu-jitsu, his dad was the instructor of the gym.
Okay.
And eventually his dad retired and moved back to Brazil.
Yeah.
And left him the gym, and then he took forth the gym. And most people don't know that, but Pablo's dad was, he's probably like a red belt now at this day. I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen him or spoken to him in many years, and he just disappeared into Brazil somewhere. But he was the guy who was instructor at the gym when I started. And when I came to jiu-jitsu, I was born in Brazil, and I moved here when I was like 5 years old.
Yeah.
So when I started jiu-jitsu, I had a terrible Portuguese vocabulary. But I spoke because, my parents spoke at home, and
Yeah.
I came here when I was young, and I went to school, from
Yeah.
kindergarten to high school. And he was like, "Where are you from?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm from Rio." And he's like, No, you're not from Rio. I'm from Rio. You sound like you're from the north. Like, and in Brazil, just like anywhere in the United States, right? If you go to the north, or you go to the south, or you go to Cali, or you go to Texas, you hear the accents of the people. Like, right, I got on the elevator today, and I heard this guy I could tell he was from Texas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you could hear it clear as day. Or somebody from the south, you can hear, or like somebody from Alabama or something. You know what I mean? Like, the accents are strong. So there's this part of Brazil that's called Ceara, and they have a strong, weird accent.
Yeah.
And he's like, "That's where you're from." He goes, "You speak funny and you got a big head."
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not from there. And if I could tell, I think he could tell when he told me that, it bothered me.
Yeah.
Because I was like, no, I'm not from there. Like I felt insulted, I guess. I don't know. And there was no insult to it. And I was like, no, I'm not from there. He's like, "Oh yeah, that's where you are." And he would just call me that name every time I came to class.
Yeah.
Like, he was like, he didn't know my name. He's like, "Hey, Ceara, come here." And I'm like, the freaking guy keeps calling me this.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I have that in my notes.
Yeah.
It's named after a town of tough country folk in Brazil. So I was like, I want to bring that up.
Yeah, I'm not from there.
Yeah.
But I got that nickname.
Yes.
And I guess he also said it was, eventually he said it was because he thought I was tough. And I was like, in the gym fighting everybody really hard.
Yeah.
But honestly, I remember the first time he said it to me, and he really said it because of the way I spoke. And he said the size of my head. Which
Yes.
I was skinnier, and my head was probably big.
Yeah.
When you're young, you got a big head, He's
I've
skinny.
always had a big head. I got a big head now. So, so Pablo, the lineage goes Pablo to Jorge. Was his dad, and then it goes to Crolin.
Yep.
And then to Carlos.
Yep.
Now, do you keep in your gym, like 10th Planet gyms, you'll see like the lineage?
I don't do that.
Okay, I didn't know if
I don't do that. I know a lot of jiu-jitsu schools do that.
Yeah.
I don't do that at all now.
Okay. 2001 to 2007 to get the black belt, so six years roughly. Am I right there?
Yep.
That's pretty fast, I feel like.
And I took a year off in the middle of that.
Okay. Because was it Achilles? Was he the firstborn? So 2000.
No, I have a daughter.
Daughter a little older than.
Yeah.
So, jiu-jitsu, gym, like walk us through the process of getting this. Like, how are you juggling all these things?
I literally had a speech about that last night because people were like, "Oh, I'm like, man, I had 2 jobs. For the longest, I always had 2 jobs.
Yeah.
When I first started jiu-jitsu, I had a daytime job where I worked construction, and I worked in the middle of the night cleaning restaurants. Mm-hmm. And then I would go to jiu-jitsu after construction working. That's, I guess, one of the reasons why they thought I was tough, too, because I work construction, and I'd show up to train, and most of the time I would look like I just got out of the work site and just show up and train as hard as I can, and they'd be like, "How the hell is this guy doing this?"
Yeah.
So I 2006 I came back, but 2004, maybe close to 2005, I stopped for a year. I hurt my knee. I thought I hurt my knee real bad where I probably couldn't do anything, probably had to have surgery, and I don't remember how it healed or if it healed, because I eventually had knee surgery. But I took the time off and kind of like started working really hard, and was like, I just kind of got burnt off jiu-jitsu because there was a lot of circumstances happening with life. My wife had a full-time job. I was juggling the kids because they were really young. Achilles was like maybe 1 or 2, and my daughter was like 5. So it was a lot on the plate, and I just took the time off, and then I got fat. I was like, started to pay attention to myself. I was like, man, I'm like weighing 200 pounds. And I used to weigh 150 when I was doing jiu-jitsu, when I was younger. So it made sense.
Yeah.
And then from one day to the next, I stepped on a scale and I was like 205 pounds. And I was like, oh my God. Like looking down, I could see a gut.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not looking good. This is not good.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I'm going to come back to jiu-jitsu. And I showed up, and I was a purple belt at the time. And I showed up, and within a couple months, they promoted me because I just came back, and I remember coming back, and I was basically just beating everybody in the gym.
Yeah.
And but the years before that, I had competed so much. I had put so much competition experience because like 2 months into training, my team where I trained, they were going to go to a Naga. It was actually the first Naga I think ever to have, first Naga to ever exist in Miami.
Okay.
And I showed up and I competed and I won, and I had been training for 2 months, and people were like, "Whoa, this guy's really good!" Like, got some like, skills, And after that, I just competed every month. I was just competing, just showed up competition, and I felt like the competitions was the reason why I was evolving fast, because I would show up, I would compete, I would watch. I would not only compete, but I would watch everybody else compete, just kind of step back and watch. And I gained a lot of knowledge through those years of competition. And when I took that year off and I came back, I felt like I came back, but I didn't miss anything. I felt like I just rested for a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
I came back and I was just beating all the purple belts and brown belts and black belts in the gym, just beating everybody down. And I was heavy.
Yeah.
So I feel like I was skinny and I was good. And then when I came back, I was really heavy. So I feel like it made me even better. I don't know. It just gave me like this confidence that I didn't have. And then I got promoted to brown belt. And then that same year, I went to Gi Worlds and I placed. And then I went to the no-gi pans. That was the first year they ever had no-gi pans, and I won. And then I got my black belt in 2000, at the end of 2007. And I started competing again, and I just started winning a bunch of stuff at black belt. And the instructor at the time was like, "Hey, man, you should consider maybe opening a school,
Yeah.
And I'm like, at the time I was like, this sounds crazy, like I'm meant to teach, I don't know how to teach, and I had no experience in teaching. And I started doing like little private classes with people, and everybody I did a private class with was just like, "Man, you're an amazing teacher. You're a really good teacher. You're a really good teacher." And I'm like, all right, maybe I am meant to be doing this teaching stuff, right? So since Pablo had asked me, and I'm like, all right, if you show me how to run this business, I'll do it, So I ran the business and started to, continue to work during the day because I had to survive. So I had to have my regular day job, my construction job.
Yeah.
And then at night, I was teaching classes, and basically through all those years that I, maintained 2 works, 2 jobs, it was just, tenacity. Just like I knew I wanted to be, doing something better with myself, and I knew I had to level up for my family, having young kids and having all these responsibilities. I knew it was easy, it didn't feel hard.
Yeah.
It just felt right, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I also had really good examples at home. My dad and my mom were very, very, very hard hustlers. They both came from Brazil to the United States and grinded for many years, and they did some good things for themselves. So I at home examples were just spewing, so it was much easier to kind of go, all right, I know what I need to do. It's not like this is impossible. I've seen it done already,
Yeah.
So it, just kind of all worked out.
Yeah. And then, so when do you start your school in that process?
In 2008, I started.
2008?
In 2008, I opened doors. That was like April or March of 2008.
And so what year were you able to just pretty much go all in on your school and not need any other jobs?
In 2011, it's funny you say I didn't. In 2011, I started taking fighting, MMA fighting much more serious.
You were in the UFC.
Yeah, I got in the UFC.
Yes.
I did Bellator. I did Strikeforce. I did all the major events that existed in the era that I was in.
Yeah.
I 2011, I got in the UFC. It was right after I got in the UFC that I was able to kind of like, take a step back. It wasn't because of the money of the UFC, but I was able to get sponsors. I was able to get, the fights consistently. I was able to make a little more money. And I wanted to take it 100% serious. So I took training to fight in the UFC, like as if it was a job, and teaching as if it was a job, like trying to separate the two as much as possible.
Yeah.
It was still very hard. One, because I lacked knowledge that I didn't acquire through, being a part of a big team or being part of other people's. I didn't have that support system of knowledge that I needed to be the most successful MMA fighter I could have been. But I did it. I did my best version of it. And that's when I stopped basically working construction and started to. But before that, I took like 7 professional fights. I flew to like Peru. I fought like 4 or 5 fights on short notice. My first 6 fights, I fought 4 or 5 of them on short notice. Like a week out, somebody's like, "Hey, you want to fight?" I'm like, "I'll go." People are like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll go."
Yeah.
They're like, think I'm crazy, and I'll go out there and win.
Yeah.
One of the fights I took in Peru was like 10 days out. They were like, "Hey, there's a guy in Peru who's really good. They're doing a big show out there. Would you want to come out and fight?" I'm like, "I'll go." And then they the guy I feel like he was trying to convince me not to go. He's like explained everything like, you're sure you want to do this? I'm like,
yeah.
I'm like, do you want me to go or you not want me to go? Which one is it? He's like, "No, I want you to go." I said, "I'll go then."
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Okay, all right, this guy's crazy,
Yeah.
And then I got there and the guy's like the same guy. He's like, "What are you gonna do?" And I'm like, "I'm gonna submit that guy in a minute." And he's like, "How are you gonna do that?" I said, "I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna punch him in the face once, and I'm gonna take him down, and I'm gonna submit him."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Okay." And then I did it, and I remember he became like my biggest fan. He's like, "Bro, you were crazy. You told me you were gonna do exactly that, and you did it." And I said, "I told you I was gonna do it. Yeah, this is what I came here for."
It's dope.
So yeah, once I got that opportunity to fight in the UFC, and I made a little bit of money with sponsors and the fight purses and stuff. And not life-changing money, but money that I had never seen in my life before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like made like $20,000, and I was like, "Wow, $20,000!" It's money that never existed before.
Yes.
Especially when you come from nothing.
From humble beginnings, absolutely, bro.
So, money like that, I was able to kind of like start playing with it and putting it in the right places and changing the patterns of our lives.
That's crazy. So, and I kind of analyze it this way: it's like you start training in 2001. And all of those skills contribute to your business, and then you're essentially fully 100% off that business 2011. Being in insurance, so I've been 100% commission since I was 18 years old. So I try to explain to the people that get into the insurance industry, it's like, it's not going to be overnight that you're successful. You know what I mean? It's going to take years of dedication. And I look at it, I compare it a lot to like jiu-jitsu. It's like your first year, you're just getting tapped out by everybody. So you're not making a bunch of money. You know what I mean? Your second year, you're starting to learn kind of the positioning and fundamentals. You might catch some white belts and last with them. So you're making a decent amount of money. But as the years go by, you start to make a good living. You know what I mean? All the industries and all the successful people I've met, it's all really similar. You can almost relate it to jiu-jitsu. It's like a 10-year process before you're like fully independent.
It's funny how jiu-jitsu could be related to everything in life.
It's crazy.
Yeah, there's so much things you can just kind of bounce off and be like, it's kind of like jiu-jitsu there. It's kind of like jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
Jiu-jitsu is special.
It's crazy. So getting into your subs, I was studying your subs. Your most subs are rear naked chokes. So that's based off of what we got here. 7 rear naked chokes. Obviously way more. It's 42 subs what I've got here from what I was studying, but it definitely has to be more. 7 rear naked chokes, 5 arm bars, 4 triangle short chokes. Recently, though, I was looking at you hit toe holds 2022 against Egan O'Flanagan. Mm-hmm. So that was ADCC. And then Brian Peterson, no-gi. And I don't know if there was anything more recent than that. But the toe holds look like. So are you starting to play more of a leg game here recently?
I've like I said, when I started jiu-jitsu, I started in a different time, and I tell people all the time, I started jiu-jitsu in a gym where the person who was the head of the gym was focused on ADCC alone, and we're talking 2002. Around that era, right there, 2001, 2002. And, excuse me, there was a lot of leg locking inside our gym. You know, there was a lot of no-gi leg locking.
Yeah.
You know, and not necessarily heel hooks, but, you know, a lot of straight foot locks, a lot of toe holds, knee bars, things of that manner. There was heel hooks, of course, but it wasn't like, I feel like it wasn't educational like it is today, right?
Yeah.
Where you have all these systems that you can kind of run and process through, you know?
Yeah.
But there was a lot of leg locks done. So I've always been kind of good at leg locks. And the toe hold is nothing special to my game, but it's kind of like fits in right in a little crescent where I'm kind of like usually crushing somebody and I'm trying to pass their guard and they're shoving their knee shield between them and I kind of, I'll grab it and just rip it, you know?
I think I project it too much when I reach back for it, because usually that knee will drop and then I can either pass, or I got the toe hold, or I could roll through and try to
That's
take
exactly
it back.
how I do it. I just kind of put my hand on the foot and I use it to kind of like, almost like I'm Toriano passing to the left,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like addressing the foot and I let him know like, hey, I'm holding this foot.
Yeah.
I'm going to pass your guard or you're going to put this leg between you and I, and I'm going to toe hold you there.
Yes.
You know? And usually the toe hold sits because they don't want to let me pass.
Yeah.
You know? In training, most of my training partners know I hit it really well. So every time I put my hand on the foot, they drop the knee and I'll pass. You know, but the guys in competition, you know, it happens to happen. And it's funny, it happened twice this year, and I was able to do it. So it's kind of a move that I'm bringing back.
What are your thoughts on Nicky Rod hit that toe hold on Gordon, and it looked
from 50-50.
Yeah, that looked solid.
Yeah, it was good. You
So-
could tell it hurt.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, I guess at that high level, are you just eating those? It's like I'm just gonna eat it.
I think though, you know, there's so much history in that match that you know, and there's so much going on the line for both of them that I don't think a regular submission is going to tap.
They got to go to one's got to go to sleep.
One's got to be, you know, I honestly believe anything that has joints involved, people can eat. You know, they'll get hurt. You'll get hurt.
Yeah.
You know, like I hurt my foot at ADCC. You get hurt. You know, you keep it moving.
Yeah.
You know, you recover a couple months and you go back and do it again. You know.
Yeah.
When you get somebody's neck, you know, that's why I like rear naked chokes.
Yeah.
You can't lie.
Yeah. No.
You can't fake that.
That was an EBI rule set because it was more of a crank. And when I was watching the highlights, Nicky Rod had on Gordon because he was more on the jock because you start from the back.
He didn't have it quite there. I think he was getting in. I mean, if that was a regular round match, maybe if he had plenty of open time, maybe he could have finished it. But I don't think he was going to get it. I think Gordon was clearly aware of where he was and what he was doing. And plus, those guys have so much experience with each other that I'm sure it was not the first time he's been in that position with him, you know?
Even just training 2 years and rolling consistently with some people over a couple months, it's like you learn each other's game. I can't imagine spending years with somebody.
Yeah, and especially at those guys at the level that they're in and the knowledge that they have acquired already. There's no way they know everything about each other, you know, every movement. You can feel the person, you know.
Yeah.
Like you said, you train with somebody for a couple months, you figure them out.
Yeah.
Imagine a person who's elite at the highest level and all they do is this, they live this, you know, and they are, you know, been years on the mat together. You know? It's very hard to kind of get something going.
Are you excited to see, with all the money that's starting to flood into jiu-jitsu, what that's going to look like over the next 5-10 years?
I think that's great. You know, I think it's a good thing for the new generations coming in behind. But I still feel like it's so far from where it needs to be.
Yeah.
You know, jiu-jitsu is still a hobby sport. You know.
Yeah.
Most professional athletes are not making a living off of competitions. They're making a living off of something, you know, that subs in. You know, like either teaching, seminars, or DVDs, or you know. Everything but competitions. You know, there's very few. Like this weekend, you know, Midwest Finishers, Omar's tournament is a huge tournament. Yeah, it's a big one. You know what I mean? Like if you win this one, you know, there's a possibility the athlete that wins today, the absolute could be ranked. Let's just say, right?
Yes.
But it's paying $1,200.
Yeah.
What do you do with $1,200?
You get here and get back to wherever you came from. Yeah.
You know, how is that changing your life?
And that's crazy because you'll put your joints on the line. I'd be thinking about that. I'm like, because I'll go and watch. Like, dude, they're gonna rip that foot off for the potential of $1,200.
Yeah, the potential of $1,200. Yeah, exactly. So it's still a baby sport. You know?
Yeah,
it's cool. You know, I mean, when I started jiu-jitsu, there wasn't even any of these opportunities. It's very cool it's evolved a lot. But even ADCC, biggest tournament in the world, the guy who wins the weight class makes 10 grand. How's that changing your life?
Yeah. Yeah, that's insane. I thought it was more. I thought it was like 30,
grand.
40, 50.
It's 10 grand.
So it's more mainly sponsorships and at that level, and then gyms, and then the
even the sponsorships. What are you going to sponsor? How do you get your money back?
And then the BJJ.
It's more donations, right?
Yes.
Than it is sponsorships.
What about off of BJJ Fanatics?
BJJ Fanatics is one of the better avenues that people make a living off of. They do a great job, but the market's flooded.
Yeah.
If you're not the guy, the guys, if you're not that name, that you're a credible source, like you got to be, somebody who's got authority.
Yes.
Right? If you're just a regular guy that's a good black belt that has won some things, and you make a BJJ Fanatics DVD, the chance of you making a living off that is very small.
Yeah, small.
A guy like Gordon, John Danaher, those guys are making livings because they have the authority and the hype behind them.
Yeah.
And there's others, like I know Mika does very well too. And
yeah.
So there's if you look at the top of the food chain, they're gonna make a living, but otherwise.
Now, was Mika 17 in ADCC?
I think it was 19.
Okay, because you have to be 18, because it looks like
you don't have to be. You don't have to be 18. You could be 15
in ADCC.
You show up. You could sign up at 15, I believe, and compete.
Wow. Because I got it here. He was the youngest athlete to receive a black belt. Is Mika?
Yeah, he got his black belt before his 18th birthday, I believe, or he got it on his 18th. But he got it under the set rules for the IBJJF.
Okay.
I guess organization or no, federation.
Okay.
That's the word.
Okay. So will your son try to compete in ADCC?
Yeah, he did. He did the trials.
The trials? How'd that go?
He did the trials a year ago, 2 years ago. I don't even know how long it's been now. He did the last trials, and he was 15 years old when he did it. Yeah, he did really good. He got the 2 American trials. He got to day 2 of both trials. He got in the top 16.
Yeah,
which is incredible.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, not many athletes did that. He beat several black belts on his way up. He lacked, maturity. I think. I think he lacked physicality as well.
Yeah.
And is the reason why he didn't get to the finals. Even though I think he could have won. He's still kind of learning.
Yeah.
He's still a young kid. But in the last year, since those trials, he's gotten so much better because of those experiences.
Yeah.
And I cannot not see him winning the next trials.
Yes.
I cannot not see it. Like he's evolved so much that I'm like, man, there's no way this kid doesn't show up. He would have to show up and not have, a good day. Maybe something, tragically. But
yeah,
I can't see it. He's just become such a freak. Through the trials experiences and also going to ADCC himself and witnessing me compete, I think it kind of it drew a fire in him because, man, this is my dad. This is the guy I train with all the time. We're close to the same size now and we're rolling together.
I was going to say, he
hard.
looked kind of big. I was like, he's a
really
big kid.
He's a big kid. He's bigger than I am. When I say kind of the same size, he's past me already. He's tall.
I was going to say, this is a tall, big kid.
He's 6'1". He's taller than me, and he weighs almost as much as I do. He's a couple pounds shy of my weight.
Yeah.
But because he's so tall, he looks bigger. You know what I mean? He's extremely gifted. I had a good we had a good round with my daughter. She got second at the trials.
So I was going to ask, does anybody else in the family compete? Do you have just two kids?
Yep.
Okay.
I got her. She's a black belt, and she had a couple good years as well. And
wow.
She won. She won She won the opportunity to. She was the first replacement for the weight division for the women. Coming up to the ADCC, so she was there. She got flown out by as if she was an alternate basically.
Okay. Yeah.
Because she got second and third in the 2 trials for the U.S. and she lost to the same girl.
Wow.
She lost to the same girl twice.
Yeah.
So which was really cool, and the girl who she lost to became runner-up in the main event, which shows how good the girl is and
Yeah.
the level that Jasmine's at as well. And you know, it's cool, man. These kids are
Crazy.
just killers. Yeah,
Yeah.
They're you know, they like I said, I guess I said it earlier about my parents. You know, they see the examples at home, you know, and I know my children see the examples that me and my wife set, and I see that it's paying off in their characters, in their personalities, and their work ethics. You know, I know, and sometimes, you know, parents are always critical of their kids. You know, you're never gonna get the same version of you through your children, but sometimes you just got to look at it and look at their version and know that it's a good version of you know, of what's coming, you know.
Absolutely. How do you balance, because I'll hear some coaches say, or just jiu-jitsu in general, like, I'm coaching, I can't compete. But you look like you compete a lot and coach a lot. So is that just like a mindset, like I'm going to do both? And I don't. And you're competing and winning. It's not like you're competing and just like going out there and.
No, I've been trying to figure that out as well. It's one of those things that I'm doing two things at once again.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how I'm doing it. You know what I mean? I feel like I love what I do, and I am always involved in my training. I'm a scatterbrain in most of my life. Everything else, I'm kind of like all over the place. But when I'm on the mat and I'm in a room and people are training near me, around me, or with me, I'm very aware of what's happening. I could be training with you and I'm looking at somebody else, watching them train and kind of like analyzing what they're doing, you know? And I also have my students all recording their training, so I can kind of like sit back with them and talk to them what they're doing that they should be doing differently, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because this way, it's, as a coach, you want to sit there and watch them, right? You want to be like kind of like all eyes on them. But if there's 10 different people in the room that you want to be all eyes on, how can you be all eyes on everybody, you know?
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense. So I have a principle with my students. I'm like, everybody needs to bring tripods. Everybody needs to be recording their own training. And you need to have questions. If you don't have questions, you're not going to get better. You need to get, you got to have questions. If you don't have questions, how are you going to get better? How are you going to evolve? How are you going to step to the next level if you don't know what you're doing that's right or wrong? You know? Even if you just show me and say, hey, what do you think about this? This is my round. You know, like, I do that with my kids a lot. Excuse me. Both my daughter and my son, you know, sit down and talk to them about their training and their evolution and the things that they're doing that works and the things that they need to change, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So. Now, my next question is, in the years to come, or just in future competitions, who do you think has an opportunity to dethrone Gordon?
I mean, right now or in the next 5 to 10 years? Because, I mean, Gordon eventually is going to get old.
Exactly.
And we don't know what his motivation will continue to be like, you know? Like, I feel like Gordon got to this point in his life because he's very, very good at what he does, and he's also been trying to prove everybody wrong.
Is he, like, how he portrays himself on social media, is he like that in person behind the scenes too, or is he like a little more?
I've had very small interactions with him.
Okay.
But he's always been very kind and genuine with me in person.
Okay.
But on the internet, he acts like a douche sometimes.
Yeah, the internet, he seems crazy.
He's done some douchey things to me on the internet, and I respect him. I think he's a great guy. But in person, he's always been really cool and kind of funny. And for example, like last week, my daughter was in Austin. She went to their gym, trained with him, went to his house.
Yep.
And he was super kind to her, and him and his girlfriend or wife, Natalia, they were super nice and genuine to him. So sometimes I think it's a persona. You know, I think he's kind of doing it just to kind of pick at people and get them upset.
Yeah.
But I think that was the reason why he might do that, is just to get people riled up to be, so he can create that drive in himself too. You know, drive the money and drive in himself. I think he feeds off of people disliking him.
Yes.
I think he feeds off of like, you know what? I want you to not like me, so I have a reason to beat you.
Yes.
But if you like me, right, and everybody approves of me, what's the reason I'm going to do this for, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that's a thought process that I've had. And I'm like, I mean, that might be the reason why he does it, you know? Because I know for a fact he's gotten to this point because he wanted to prove every hater that hated on him many years ago wrong. And because before he was Gordon, he was this person
Yeah.
on the internet, and people were like, "Who's this guy? This guy's nobody. He hasn't won anything, and he's over here talking about this, that, the other, and he's gonna do this, that, the other." And guess what? He did this, that, the other.
Yeah.
And now what are they gonna say now? You know, what is there to say now?
Yeah,
What can
exactly.
you say now? You can't say nothing. You just got to be like, all right, he's right. He is the best. You know. So I don't know. I don't know what we don't know what Gordon will be like in 5 years. You know, I don't know what his motivation pertains to be. You know, right now he's still got, you know, Felipe Pena is still a motivation for him. You know, because he's a guy who beat him a couple times. This last match was, you know, people can use that. Oh, he was upset about the Leandro Lo situation. You know, I get it. You know, like this could be used, you know, as an argument. But you know, for now, he's still relevant enough that it's another threat to his, you know, throne. So, in 5-6 years, you know, some athletes will emerge, some new stars will come out, you know, and I think that will be, you know, he won't be. Maybe he will be. Maybe people will be like, oh, you know, he's getting older now. This new generation is coming. You know, you never know. You don't know what people are going to do and say. Yeah. You know, to motivate him.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and what's crazy is, like, when did Achilles start training?
Achilles started training at 4.
And so it's like now you got kids that'll be 24 years old with 20 years of training.
Yep.
So it's like, and that'll be. That's right around the corner. You know what I mean? So Gordon will probably still be competing, and it's not just Achilles. There's some kids out there coming. You got Mika, you got Kolabate, and some.
Yeah, I don't think anybody that's under 6'1" can beat Gordon.
Yeah, you got to have some size. So the Mika's definitely small. I don't know how big Cole is. Tiny.
Yeah, they're both smaller guys.
The Rotolo brothers. One of them did really well against Felipe.
Ty is kind of bigger, but he's not that big. You know, he's.
One of them was talking some sauce to Gordon now.
Yeah, Ty. He's maybe 6 foot tall. You know, he's. You know, I think anything. I honestly believe anything below 6'1" is small for him because he's huge. When you stand next to him, you kind of understand. I faced him the last match, and I can tell you, he's too big when he gets on top, and he spreads his wings wide.
Yeah,
and you can't move him. And if you can't move him, you just drown underneath him, you know?
Yes.
So I feel like anybody who has to fight him has to have size. That's why Felipe is still a really good candidate to beat him, because he actually has the same size, and he has the skills, and he has the experience, and he has, still has enough tools to kind of, be able to kind of fight Gordon toe to toe, you know?
Yeah.
But I do think Gordon's better than him, and I do think Gordon will win, you know? But it's definitely a closer fight, you know what I mean?
Yes.
I think anybody who needs to beat Gordon needs to be the appropriate size, you know?
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it's going to be a very hard day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I feel like even like for myself, like even a higher level belt that's like I'm 185, 190. If they're like 150, 160, I'm going to last a little longer in comparison to a high level belt that's closer to my size.
You also probably smush a guy that's 150. Maybe not in the first minute or two.
Yeah.
But like get into the 4th, 5th minute of a round and you start laying on them and they just drown underneath you.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's the same thing when you get a guy who's 6'3" or 6'4" and you're 6 foot tall. You know, there's 4 inches.
Yes.
It's 5'9" against 5'5".
Yeah.
You know, 6 foot versus a guy who's 5'5". You know what I mean? Like, there's, bro,
yeah, it's like
you can't. What are you gonna do with that? You know,
absolutely.
Like it's just towering over somebody. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I guess in future plans for yourself, what does that look like for your family, for the business, staying in Miami? You guys are in Miami, right?
We're in Broward County, which is right on the crisp of Miami. It's basically Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
You know?
Yep.
So the plans is to continue to build, man. To continue to build the legacy of the gym. You know, build students, build representatives, build athletes. You know, continue to inspire others to grow in the jiu-jitsu. You know, and to make future superstars. You know.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm on that path right now. You know, I have a couple guys. You know, I have a couple students that are, you know, I have 3 students in particular that one is, of course, my son Achilles, and then two others that are, 6'3" and 6'4", that are very young and very good.
Yeah.
And those are the next generation that we were talking about. How many of those are coming up that can actually do that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So hopefully I can build that army that rivals,
Yes.
the top of the food chain.
Yes.
So.
And then, I guess as we wrap up, if you had to leave like three like characteristics, not money, if you could instill like three values, characteristics, or certain things into your children, what would those three things be to make sure they had a good life, a successful life?
Man, it's so cliche, those values, but it's so cliche, but people don't do it. You know what I mean? The principles of integrity, honor, honoring, honoring those who like your parents. Sometimes people end up having fallen outs with their parents and stop talking to them, and those integrities of telling the truth. How often is telling the truth just kind of like pass by? You know what I mean? People tell little white lies all the time.
Yeah.
It could be something small as exaggerating. It doesn't seem like a lie, but you exaggerate, you're lying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like when you can just kind of find the way to just keep true integrities and principles that have been that have been right for over 2,000 years. You know what I mean? Principles that I always say it's biblical truths.
Yeah.
So it's those are to me the most important things. And I nobody's perfect. I struggle with them. Everybody struggles with them.
Yeah.
Sometimes exaggerating is one.
Yeah.
It's like a little exaggerate just a little bit about something, and you're like, man, I just lied.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You
I
lied.
went too far.
Yeah. Instead of being truthful about it, just saying the truth. This is the truth. And I feel like people don't do that enough, and they lack in the most important characteristics of being a good person.
Yeah.
Just honor, integrity, telling the truth. Honoring the ones that need to be honored in your life, and I think those things go far.
Let's go. So as we close out, what are some things you want to shout out? Where can people find you?
I am primarily on Instagram. I use Instagram pretty strong as my platform. Vagner Rocha, BJJ. BJJ? Yeah, Vagner Rocha, BJJ. I also started a YouTube page.
Yeah, I subbed the other day.
Rolling
Rolling with Rochas.
Rolling with the Rochas.
Yes.
Yeah. Me and my family have been vlogging our trips.
I like that.
Our training and all the things that we do. Might be in our vlog here today. I don't know.
Yeah, I like that. So the B team has a good vlog going, and then so I was like, that's pretty solid. They're doing that. Nobody else is doing that. And then you guys started one, and it still feels organic and genuine. It's like it's your own style of vlog, and it's cool to see different styles of rolls too, because everybody's got. So it's cool now to kind of get a peep into your guys' gym and see how you guys roll, and when watching your son, and I'm like. One, I was like, that kid is big. Because there's a kid in our school. He's 15 at 10th Planet Lombard. No, actually, he might be 16 or so. His name is Jaden, and he's pretty good. But I don't know what kids are eating now, because I feel like I just got bigger. I'm 24 years old, and I graduated at 140. You know what I mean? 5'8", 5'9".
Achilles was in 6th grade, and he was 160.
Yeah. See, I'm like,
he's always been and it wasn't like he was 160 fat. He was just thick, just a thick boned kid, and tall.
Yeah.
So he's just different.
Probably never bullied. I said probably never bullied. Somebody bullied. You're gonna get rear naked.
Yeah.
He's been choking people out since he was 4.
He's always been. He's a boy, Boys
yes.
are. They want to test themselves,
Yeah.
He's always trying to find somebody to fight, and usually it's adults. He's usually trying to fight adults.
Yeah, I bet none of his friends mess with him.
No, all the kids he knows are half his size,
Yeah.
They're like scrawny little 15-year-olds,
Yes.
So, no. Yeah, he's always trying to pick with adults fights, and we got videos on our page of him like a couple years ago. sparring with Gilbert Burns. I don't know if you know who Gilbert Burns is.
Yes,
bro,
I've seen. So you guys are like friends because I see him. He's at your gym like all the time.
Yeah, I help him with all his training for the UFC fights that he does. So,
That's insane.
He's one of my good friends, good training partners.
So he was sparring with Gilbert Burns.
Yeah, his sparring, like just slapping each other, like combat jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And he was like 13 years old, and bro, Gilbert was lighting him up, and he was lighting Gilbert back like open hand slap to the face, and I'm like, these guys are so crazy.
Yes.
But he's just always been a little savage, you know. He's just not scared of anything or anyone, and just step up. You know?
Wears the name well.
Huh?
I said he wears the name well.
Oh, he does.
That's literally my favorite movie. When I saw that, I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah, when we saw that name, my wife and I were like, that's what we're gonna name our first boy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I was all about it, and then
Yes.
you know, it just fit him, and he pulls up on it. He knows.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, again, this is probably my favorite episode that I've done off the podcast. I'm very grateful that you were able to make it out here. I'll see you later at the event too.
Yes,
so I'll
sir.
probably pop out there and check out everything. And blessings to you and your family, brother.
Thank you so much. You as well.
Thank
Thank you
you.
guys for watching, and
Yes.
let's go.
Let's go. Peace.